What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome back to my unit review series for Fire Emblem Heroes. And today I'm going to be taking a look at Ninja Hana, and she is the latest Tempest Trial unit that we have got in the game. So I'm going to be giving you guys a review on her, a lot of the builds, and if you should spend your Heroic Grails on her or not. So with that said, I hope you guys do enjoy and let us begin.
Bow before the blade!
Hana is an Axe Infantry unit this time around, and she has got really good offensive stat spread of base 36 attack and base 40 speed, which is really amazing, and that allows her to be one of the best free-to-play users of Spurn, Close Call, and Repel, all of those damage reduction skills. So that's a big boon. And she comes with Ninja Masakari, which is a 9 might brave weapon essentially, but instead of having the speed penalty, it has got the penalty on your defense and resistance, and it does give you +4 speed, which is really helpful in quad attacking. And this is mainly going to be a player phase weapon, and it's a really good weapon on a unit like Hana because she already has such a high speed stat, so she can quad attack really easily, and she does come with life and death at base, so she's able to quad attack really well even with her base kit. She does have a speed super boon and a defense super boon, which means that after the first merge with those super boons, she's able to reach 180 BST, which is really good for arena scoring. And of course, speed super boon is going to be always better than defense super boon, and speed is basically going to be the IV that you should go for if you decide to use your trait fruits on her. Now, she can be compared to some of the older units basically, and the main competition is going to be Echidna because she has the most similar stat spread to her. Hana has got better attack and much better speed than Echidna at the cost of having a bit less HP and physical bulk in general. So I would say that this is definitely a pretty fair trade-off because having extra speed is always going to be better for future proofing because we are getting just so much speedy units, and even in future we're going to be getting even more speedier units. So speed is always going to be a really good thing, and having more speed basically allows you to have better potential with the damage reduction skills, and also when you're going to be facing those damage reduction skills, because the difference between their speed stat and your speed stat isn't going to be that much. So again, speed is going to be really good. An extra attack is always going to be nice because we do have a lot of really bulky threats. However, to put this in full picture, we have to look at max investment. So Echidna can have access to more dragon flowers, and even after that, Hana is just much better with more speed, as I said, and better resistance, better visible resistance, which is gonna be really nice for facing AoE specials, especially in Aether raids. And the main difference is that Echidna does not take Heroic Grails to plus and merge, and neither does she take trait fruits to get the perfect IV for her. So it's all about the investment cost. Hana is gonna be more costly to build up, but ultimately is gonna be better than Echidna. Echidna, on the other hand, is gonna be cheaper to build and gonna be using less resources, but she does not really score as much as Hana in arena, and of course does not have as much speed as Hana. Another thing is that in 2-3 years, Echidna could probably get a weapon refine because she is a unit in the normal summoning pool, but Hana is probably not gonna be getting that because she's a seasonal unit. And she could also be compared to some other older units like Libra, and it's just sad honestly because just how fast she is compared to someone like Libra, while also having pretty much the same bulk. So that speed is really significant that she's got going for her. You could also compare her to Ross, but Ross is basically going to be having more attack and more defense, and he's definitely not going to be having that much speed or that much resistance as Hana. So in my opinion, Hana is basically the best free-to-play Axe Infantry unit that we have got right now as of making this video, because she just has much better speed stat, and she does have pretty good bulk at max investment and can make fantastic use of these damage reduction skills. However, the cost is definitely going to be quite expensive with the Grails and the trait fruit being required at max investment, so that is something to keep in mind. Life and Death is already present on 4-star Soth, and Wrath is a good skill that you could fodder her off for, but Astrum also has it. So by far the most unique thing that she has got is Ninja Masakari, her weapon, which is going to be a really nice weapon for enabling quad attacks on other units. So if you want to fodder off one of the Hanas, then here are some examples of how you could use this on other units. So Linus is a pretty good example of that. He does have pretty nice attack and speed, so he can basically be a quad attacking unit with a build like this. And because of his defense, even after getting that reduced by the weapon, he can still fire off some pretty powerful Ignis. Mini Nerva is an interesting option because of Dive Bomb from Pirate Tabarn, and she pretty much reaches 60 speed with her Slot C and Sacred Seal, so at that point you could invest into Sturdy Impact for having more defense, for doing more damage with Bonfire essentially, and for staying in Dive Bomb range. So with Dive Bomb, you're basically going to be able to fire off 4 hits consecutively, and on the last hit you're going to be triggering Bonfire, so this could be a really powerful weapon for someone like Minerva with this high investment. Groomarth is another option because he is pretty fast, and lull skills are also option for his slot B. And if you've already built up some of the older Axe Infantries like Echidna or Ross, then this could be a new toy for them, and this is just an example of what you could possibly do with this weapon. And Flashing Blade 4 is pretty nice option with this because this weapon does increase your speed, so it's gonna be giving you true damage per hit, and if you hit all of the 4 hits, then you're basically gonna be getting 20 true damage with the Echidna build, which I'm showing here. It could be a pretty nice toy for a lot of these Axe units who are pretty fast and can definitely make use of this kind of weapon for quad attacking consistently. And obviously this weapon cannot be weapon refined, so you're not going to be able to get extra stats out of this weapon. And I've seen a lot of people say that this pretty much power creeps the Brave Axe in a sense, but I would disagree with that because Brave Axe is still a better option if you're using a slow unit. For a slow unit, they don't really care about their speed that much because they're not going to be quad attacking, and slow units usually are going to be bulky, so they don't really want to compensate on their bulk, which this weapon does by reducing your defense and resistance by 4. So basically Brave Axe is for the slower, tankier units who cannot quad attack, and Ninja Masakari is basically for those units who have a speed stat where they could speed stack to the point where they could quad attack with this weapon.
Ninja Strike, right?
Hana is a Tempest Trial unit, so she's not really going to be getting any kind of rerun, which means that it is going to be taking you 2,700 Grails to plus 10 Merger. And as I said, she's one of the best, if not the best free-to-play user right now of Close Call, Repel, and Spurn because of that base 40 speed that she has got going for her, so damage reduction skills are really amazing with her. She's definitely pretty versatile with her stat line, so it can be used for player phase, enemy phase, and even mixed phase, as you'll see later on in the builds. And because she's an infantry unit, she has got access to a lot of these busted skills, which other class types don't have access to. And she does score 180 BST with the speed super boon in the arena, so she's really nice for arena scoring as well. And free-to-play players do have a pretty nice arena scoring option in Hana now, along with Enna, which we did receive recently as well. And now let's go over some of the reasons why you may not want to invest into her with your Heroic Grails. So the first reason is that you've already invested into someone like Ross, Echidna, or any of the Axe Infantry units, and you don't want to build up another Axe Infantry. And the other point is that she doesn't have a preferred weapon. So in future, she is probably going to be more prone to getting power crept by the shiny new free-to-play Axe Infantry unit that just has better stats than her, similar to how she kind of outdoes Echidna right now. Because Hana is just the newer gen unit essentially, so she has got better stat spread than her. But because she's a seasonal unit, she's never really going to be getting a weapon refine because no seasonal unit so far has got one. And that basically boils down to the fact that Hana is probably going to be less unique in like 2-3 years when Ross, Echidna maybe get their weapon refines and stuff and they have more effects going on for them in their weapon. So that could be something, but as of right now, she's a pretty good option. She's going to be pretty expensive Grail-wise compared to a Grand Hero Battle unit like Flame Emperor who can get reruns, even though I would say that Hana is better than Flame Emperor because she's not an armor unit and doesn't have the armor weakness. She also needs Straight Fruit for arena scoring, so that's another thing if you want to get to 180 BST. And because she doesn't have a preferred weapon, you'll have to run a 300 SP Slot C skill.
You're mine now!
Let's start with some of the budget builds for Ninja Hana. So the first build is basically having Speed Smoke and Drawback from Chad, and having Luna over Glimmer. Her default special Glimmer, in my opinion, isn't really the best, especially for an unmerged Hana, when she doesn't have the greatest attack. And Luna, in my opinion, is a better special because it lets you cut through the high defensive units. And you could definitely replace Wrath with Desperation if you want more longevity. Basically, she can be in the Desperation range. And on the final hit, she's going to be triggering Luna if she gets to quad attack. And on budget, Gale Force doesn't really have that kind of power because she's lacking merges, but still it could be pretty decent because she's extremely fast and can definitely make use of Flashing Blade for a budget Gale Force build. You could also run Quick Impulse as a Sacred Seal. Basically, it's going to be having a 4-turn Gale Force at start of combat, but Flashing Blade could be useful after the first combat. And now let's move on to the high investment builds. This is pretty much gonna be her best build with Dex Swabber. That's gonna be her best weapon, I would say, because it's essentially a lull attack defense that has got a solo condition. And that's a pretty nice weapon because it frees up your slot B and you could run a damage reduction skill. And as I said, Hana is a really good user of these damage reduction skills for a free-to-play unit, so you definitely want to use that. Any kind of damage reduction is going to be working out, Spurn, Close Call, or Repel, but Spurn ends up being the better one out of the three because of its extra special damage. So basically you could run this with Distant Counter and Speed Rest solo, and she can be incredibly tanky with this because of her high speed and the fact that she could really utilize her damage reduction skill. And if you don't want to have Dex Swabber, then you do have some other options if you don't like the solo condition. You could run her with Slaying Axe and Flashing Blade, or you could use her with Huge Fan and Noontime, and you could run her with an Oath skill as well to power up your Huge Fan and basically activate it. Kestrel Stance, which we are going to be getting from the upcoming Tempest Trial, is definitely going to be a pretty nice option for her Sacred Seal as well. And there are also some other high investment builds, like if you want to keep her Ninja Masakari, then you could of course replace Life in Death with Susparo, and this does allow her to have better bulk essentially because her bulk isn't really that bad. So instead of having your bulk being reduced by Life and Death, you could just run Susparo because as it is, this is a player phase weapon. And she can be extremely fast and do a lot of damage and again trigger Luna on her final hit. And you could also run a Slaying Axe build with Flashing Blade 4 with a 4-turn Gale Force essentially. So this allows her to be a really nice Gale Force unit who can be really powerful and the true damage definitely helps her. And then you could run her with Fire Sweep Axe because she's a blazing fast unit. So this could be comboed up with Time Pulse to have a 4-turn Gale Force at your first combat, and she can trigger Gale Force with Flashing Blade. And now let's move on to the arena builds. Why she's such a good unit? Because she can reach 180 BST. In my opinion, this is a really good arena build because it's pretty easy to speed stack in arena in my opinion. And Ruptured Sky is going to be a very powerful special because you're going to be facing some Titans with very high attack stat, and the low cooldown of Ruptured Sky is extremely good. And I do have some damage calcs to show you guys. I have done this in the simulator, but it doesn't really have Hana, so I have improvised a bit. So these calcs are done when Hana doesn't have any kind of buffs and she's not on a defensive tile, and we have not debuffed the foe and we have not panicked the foe. So from here on out, the matchup can definitely become better as you give her those things. So this is pretty much in a worse condition of a matchup, if you could say that. So this is a standard Crom plus and merge with close counter, and Hana just shreds this kind of Crom in the enemy phase. And keep in mind, all of these calcs are when you're baiting out these enemies. Player facing a lot of these high range units is going to be really hard, so it is just enemy facing all of these range units. And then you could also have the calc against the speediest Crom, and speedy Crom is the scariest Crom you'll ever face, and it's gonna be a draw matchup. However, if you replace Kestrel Stance and go all out with the solo condition, then you could have Speed Rest solo, and Hana is able to double and even take out the speedy Crom, which is really good. Or you could just have Kestrel Stance and give her like a drive speed support, and that is gonna be enough to double this kind of Crom who's like fully buffed and has got a completely decked out build. So this kind of leaf is gonna be pretty common. And Hana does survive even against this kind of extremely high attack leaf. So that is pretty nice, and she's able to kill him back. And of course, if you just put her on a defensive tile or give her more support with stuff like Distant Guard or Drive Defense, then it is going to be definitely much better for you. So these are just the calcs which I tried to do against these very threatening water legendary units. So I'm a pretty big fan of the Dex Swabber build, but if you dislike Dex Swabber because of its solo condition, or if you don't want to run that, and then there are definitely some alternate options which are probably not as efficient as the Dex Swabber build, but still can get the job done, especially if you're just in tier 20.5 and you're not really aiming to face the higher echelons of tier 21 arena. And the reason why Dex Swabber is so good is because it basically ignores the attack and defense buff of the foes. So if you're not going to be using it, then you can definitely use lull attack speed, because in arena everyone and their mom is going to be having a rally skill, so it definitely helps a lot. So basically, with Huge Fan, you're going to be getting special acceleration on foes' hits, and with Flashing Blade, you get the special acceleration on your hits. So by combining these two, you're basically having like a breath effect essentially. So that could be done with a high cooldown special like Aether, and then Blue Flame can also be used with Spurn. Spurn can definitely help you a lot with these lower cooldown specials with extra damage output. She can also be used in Aether Raid's offense as a tank, and here again Deck Swabber is gonna be a fantastic weapon. It's much easier and recommended to be solo with your tank unit, because you shouldn't be having your support unit just right beside your tank unit because it's pretty easy for them to get sniped. So you should keep them one space away. So Deck Swabber is pretty much the best weapon for that. You could run her in the light season with Null Follow-Up. Null Follow-Up is going to be pretty nice for taking care of Bramimons. And in light season, pretty much every unit can work. But in Astra season, she can also work as a Spurn tank, basically, with Speed Rest solo. And Pulse Smoke is going to be really nice for dealing with a lot of these Infantry Pulse teams. And you could also run Null Follow-Up in Astra. I'm a bigger fan of Null Follow-Up, honestly, because so many times you face these annoying units like Illywood, who has got steady impact in his weapon, and also all of these sturdy impact, mirror impact units, which can be extremely annoying. Of course, Duma is also present in Astra, so I like Null Follow-Up more, honestly, for slot B for tanks and Aether Raids. And because she could be so fast, especially when you pair her up with a support unit, you could definitely run attack defense solo for getting more defense and attack, because she's hitting like upwards of 60 speed basically with good support. And here's an example of how you could execute this. So here we have got the Hana, which I've showed with Speed Res solo, and Male Korin is here to support her, soak all of these shrine structure debuffs, which is really good, and he does provide her with really nice Yado support. Plumeria is gonna be a necessity for this because she can provide the role of a dancer, and also a support unit can help you break structures. She does soak chill resistance as well, which is gonna be pretty common on a lot of nuke teams, and sabotage speed support is also gonna be pretty nice. So this is just an example of what you could do with the team composition in Aether Raids with Hana. So I'm pretty happy with Hana and how she turned out to be. She is a pretty nice offensive unit that is quite versatile, does have really nice stat spread, and can reach 180 BST. So let me know in the comments how do you feel about Ninja Hana, if you're going to be building her up or not. And I want to thank all of my YouTube members for their constant support. If you enjoyed, then please be sure to leave a like and a comment, helps me tremendously. And be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes wish they could be as fast as Hana. So that's it, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.